Well, Diane, I was 16 years old, and I hated the Japs because of what they did at Pearl Harbor. And I wanted to get in before I did, but my mother wouldn't sign for me, so after about 16, she finally gave in and signed for me. And I went in up to the post office and joined the Marines. I thought I'd get there quicker by joining the Marines, but the Marine sergeant was out for lunch, and the Navy chief said, "Come over here and talk to me." And before he gets back, while he's gone out to lunch, and then you can talk to him when he gets back. Well, by the time he got back, I was in the Navy, and the chief was a real good talker. And so that's how I got in the service. Went up to join the Marines and wound up in the Navy at 16. I told the chief that I would see him in 2 weeks. You know, they usually give the people that join the service 2 weeks to get ready to take care of their business. And he said, "Well, wait a minute, sailor." He said, "What did you just do?" I said, "You mean take the oath?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You're in the Navy now, son." He said, "Your bus leaves at 7:30 tonight." So at 16, I had to from 1 o'clock till my bus left at 7:30. I was on my way to San Diego for boot camp. And we rode a train from Jackson, Mississippi, 2 days and 3 nights, and we finally got to San Diego and got in boot camp. And I never had any trouble in boot camp. I was really surprised at the life that the military had in, because we were from a poor family, and we were in this family that we shared our toothbrush with a brother and took a bath in the number 3 wash tub. So when I got out to the boot camp, everything was just, at 16, I didn't have any problem. It was just lovely. I thought all that eating and all that milk on the table that I didn't have at home, and I really enjoyed boot camp. I mean, I was having a ball. I remember one thing when we were going through boot camp. After about 3 weeks, we were supposed to go on liberty, and we lined up at 9 o'clock that morning. Man, I was ready to go. And an ensign come by and looked at me and said, "Couillard," says, "when's the last time you shaved?" I said, "Sir, I don't shave." He says, "Well, fall out, you're going to start today." Well, I went back in the barracks, and there wasn't but one soul in there, and that was old Herman Stalter from Dallas, Texas. And I said, "Herman, you got a razor I could borrow?" He said, "Sure." So when I fell back out at 11 o'clock inspection, I all cut up, and the ensign come by. He just looked at me and smiled, and he said, "Go on into town." But I learned to shave in boot camp. I had my own toothbrush in boot camp. I had more food than I ever had in my life in boot camp. So I never had any problem with boot camp. I really went from boot camp to Hawaii, and went across from California to Hawaii on the battleship Mississippi. And I slept down in the bottom of number 3 gun turret. And I come to find out that later on out at Tarawa at Marshall and Gilbert's, they had an explosion down in that number 3 gun turret and killed several men. So we went through the drill while we were going from California to Hawaii. So I was thankful it didn't happen while we were going to Hawaii. But I got on the Yorktown, the aircraft carrier Yorktown, over in Pearl Harbor, and that's where I spent my military career, on on the Yorktown from 43 to 46. And I was assigned what they call a V-1T division, it's a flight deck division on the aircraft carrier. And within that division, there was a firefighting division. Well, I was assigned to a firefighting division, and because of this, we had to go to firefighter school over in Pearl Harbor there. And there was about 20 of us. And we, at the final test, they put a dummy in a burning building, and we couldn't come out until we found that dummy. And we had masks on, but still you felt like you were suffocating. I was one of the few that come out with a dummy, and so I got in the fire crew. And I stayed in the fire crew the whole time I was aboard ship for almost a little over 2 years. And it was all on the flight deck. And we had many fires while I was in the fire crew. And just as the war was over, they gave me the aviation machinist mate rating because we had to advance other people, and so because we had too many aviation machine mate rating in the fire crew, I had to become a plane captain. So the last 6 weeks of the war, I was a plane captain of an F-6 Hellcat fighter plane. But outside of that, I stayed in the fire crew on the flight deck of the whole war. The first combat we were in were out at TWS, at Marshall and Gilbert's, in November of 1943. And we were operating with a baby flat-top carrier named Lipscomb Bay. And, of course, we were attacked by the Japanese airplanes. Mainly they were the Betty bombers that come out after us, particularly at night. And they would drop flares where they could drop aerial torpedoes at us. And as a result of this action, the submarines sank the Lipscomb Bay, operating next to us, and there was about 500 men lost. And while the Lipscomb Bay had 5 planes in the air at the time, and so they were landing on any ship they could find at night, and they landed on the Yorktown, and when one of them landed at night, which there were very few night fighter pilots had, and they had very few little experience landing at night. And one of them crashed and caused a big fire. And several men got killed. The fire was forward of the island structure on the ship. And our captain, Jocko Smith, and Jocko Clark, he had a voice like a megaphone, and you could hear him for a quarter of a mile. And we had a huge fire, and everything was blowing up, gas tanks and bullets was exploding, and it was a little hellish there for about 15 to 20 minutes. And anyway, the main thing I remember about that fire, besides getting my face all burned up, was Captain Clark. He said, "Get that so-and-so fire out." He said, "I lost one ship, and I'm not going to lose this one." But we could hear him above all the explosions and so forth. But anyway, that was my first engagement with the enemy. And then we went from TWS right on through to Marshall on the Gilberts, went through Palau and the Marianas and truck. We wound up going to Guam, Saipan, Tinian, Luzon in the Philippines, and Iwo Jima, and we were in all the invasions at various times during the whole war. There was a couple of things out there that, besides the Japs, that I said could kill you, and I didn't know it at that time, but we were in 2 typhoons, and they were, if you've never been in a typhoon, it's just an awful, and I had nightmares about the typhoon, not about the Japs for years afterwards. But at any rate, in one of these typhoons, 3 of our 10 cans, destroyers, the Spence, the Hull, and the Monaghan were all sank. And there were over 700 men lost on those three ships, and we went around picking up bodies alive and dead ones the next day after the main part passed us. But one of the other things, we were attacked in the Japanese fleet and during this time period, and our planes were launched at 4:30 in the afternoon, and the Jap fleet was 200 miles away, and we were afraid if we waited till the next day, we would lose them, and so Admiral Mitchell decided to go ahead and launch them. And when they got to the Japanese fleet, it was about dark, and they attacked the fleet and sank a number of ships. And when they were coming back to land on our ship, they couldn't find us in the dark. They had radar back then, but it wasn't like it is today. And they couldn't find us. And you could hear over the PA system, tell my wife and children that, I love them, and you could hear them crashing in the water at night. And it was just, I still remember listening to them over the PA system, all those pilots going down in the water and crashing and losing their lives, telling their mother and daddies and sisters and everything. But that was one thing I remember. And we were losing planes because they couldn't find us. And Admiral Mitchell, who was in charge of the fleet, said turn on all the lights. And so every ship in the fleet turned on their lights. And it looked like Broadway, and the pilots coming back from the attack on the Japanese fleet at midnight could see the lights from 50 miles away. And they said, there they are. And so they began landing on any carrier, whether it was theirs or not, or before they ran out of gas. And sometimes they would run out of gas while they were in the pattern landing at night. And one or two of the planes landed. After they landed, didn't have gas enough to get up to deck, so we had to run out there and push the planes on up to deck. And some of them had never landed at night, and one of them caused a big crash and killed the pilot and several other men, caused a big fire. And it was a night to remember, but that was one of the things that I remember real well. But the pilots telling their family to give them all the messages when they knew they were going to die, that struck with me for many years. I learned while I was in the Navy. I grew up, but the main thing that hit me in the Navy was I learned to depend on each other. We had to depend on each other well, save our lives. And I remember that in civilian life after I got out, if somebody told me that to do something, I did it because I felt like that, you learn to depend on each other in order to save your life and to get along in civilian life. And that was one of the main things that I remember. Some of our friends that I served with, one of the fellows was named Ben Kirby. And he borrowed a book from me that I'd gotten from the library. And it just happened to be named I'll Never Forget You. And he left the ship after we got back to the States and took the book with him. And over the years, I've tried to get the $2 back that I had to pay for the book, but he died before I could get my $2 back from him. I had some funny things happen like during all this fire and being attacked and fighting fires and dodging bullets and everything. Soon after I got aboard, I had never drank any coffee. I was 16, and the only thing I'd ever had was cocoa. And so I walked in this flight deck office where I thought they had some coffee. There was some old sailors in there that had been in the Navy about 25 years. He said, "What could I do for you, sailor?" I said, "I'd like a cup of cocoa." Well, you can imagine what happened. Everyone just laughed their head off. They hollered at me and said, "Son, where are you from?" And I told them, well, I was from Mississippi, and I never drank any coffee. He said, "Well, all we got in here is Joe." And I said, "Well, what is Joe?" And she said, "That's coffee." So I learned to shave in boot camp, and I learned to drink coffee aboard ship. I come to know many people while I was aboard, and we've been having reunions since 1948. And there was a little over 200 in our division on the flight deck when we started having them. And now there's only about, I'd say about 10 to 12 of us left. And one of these is my good friend Willie LeGard in New Orleans. But I've lost a lot of friends, and it made my life enjoyable knowing them, because we were the ones that depended on each other. And then we got to see each other year after year in our divisions, and stores would get bigger, and we'd get fatter and balder, and And there was an incident that might not have been funny to anybody else, but Lieutenant Lamb, the athletic officer aboard ship, we were coming back into Pearl Harbor one time, and he was to put on some boxing matches. And he walked up to me and said, "Ben, have you ever boxed?" And I said, "Oh no, I just among the gang that I ran around with. I've never done any professional boxing." And he said, "If you don't mind, would you mind boxing?" I said, "No, I don't mind, Lieutenant Lamb," not knowing what I was getting into. But he said, "I have a lightweight division, and you just turned 17. Said you're fit right in there." And so when we got back to Pearl Harbor, we had a 3-round bouts. And anyway, the end result was, after I lost the 3-round bout to a fellow named Ed Johnson, the only enjoyable thing was about the whole thing was that chewing on the mouthpiece that had the alcohol in it. But that was about the only thing I enjoyed about that boxing match. But years later, I found out that Johnson, the guy that he asked me to box, had been Golden Glove in 1938. And he didn't tell me that. And I've been looking for Lieutenant Lamb ever since. The thing that I was the most proud of serving in the military was that I was able to serve. Because I think if I hadn't have been able to serve, I would have just surely died, because I was so angry and mad at the Japs for what they did at Pearl Harbor. We had good gunners, good captains, and I think divine hand over us, because the whole time we were in the war, we got 11 battle stars and two President Unit citations, and we only got hit one time. And we only lost about, I think it was 5 or 6 men on that particular hit. We were very fortunate. But we started Pearl Harbor, and we wound up in Tokyo Bay after the war. And then after the war, we started bringing soldiers and Marines home, going on the Golden Gate. And I'm thankful that I had been in. And like I say, I learned to depend on others, and I learned to do what I could so that others depended on me to do what I was supposed to do. Went back to school and got my BS in nursing, and went back to anesthesia school and put people to sleep for 30-something years. Now I'm retired, and I have 3 children that are registered nursing into this. And overall, I've had a good life. And anyway, I'm thankful for being able to be in the service and do something for my country.